Hello, everybody. This is Jerome Corsi. We're doing a live stream here on Sunday, March 18th. I'm just going to wait for a minute or two, see some people starting to come into the live chat now. Great. You can see people starting to come in. Terrific. We're going to talk today about the McCabe firing, and I want to review for you where we are right now in the Mueller investigation. Good. People starting to come in from all over again. Pittsburgh, I see Newfoundland, Canada, Columbus, Ohio, Massachusetts. It's terrific. Thank you all very much. Thank you for your generous comments also about my book. I'm very pleased with how Killing the Deep State is doing. It's off to a good start. Thank you all for coming in. I see many, many people are coming now from all over the United States and from around the world. Oregon, Los Angeles. It's terrific to have everybody joining us. I'm going to wait until we get a few more people in here, and then I'm going to start into the discussion. People, thank you very much. People saying they got the book. Yes, and Phoenix Rising, thank you. From Long Beach, the super chat is on, so thank you for your contributions. They mean a tremendous amount to me. And San Antonio, Texas, from Scotland, from all around the world and around the United States. It's terrific. Canada, Pullman, Washington. It's terrific. Getting everybody. California, San Bernardino, Northern Ireland. We just did a broadcast with Charles Ortel yesterday on the Clinton Foundation in Ireland. I've got it up on my YouTube channel. If you want to listen to it, it's right there. Robert Shear, thank you very much. Happy Sunday. Orange County, California. When we get here to about 1,000 people joining in, I'll begin into the discussion. UK, we really need to spread this this message worldwide. We need to get it out across the globe because this is an international great awakening. And every one of you listening today participates in, I think, what is going to be, what is already, an historic movement that is going to be irreversible, and it's going to change the dynamics of the world we live in, the morals, the future, for ourselves and our children and our grandchildren. This is an historic moment, a great historic moment, and every one of you are participating in it. Thank you for doing so. Montreal, Canada. Great. Yes, I've given a post office box for mailing books to have them signed to me, and I'll post that up again on my Twitter. It's post office box 375. I'll get it here in a second while we're getting things going, so you have the post office box to send it to. It's in Morris Plains, New Jersey. I just have to get the exact zip code for you. Right, just give me a second while I pull it up here. Okay, it's post office box 375, Morris Plains, New Jersey 07950. And you can also email me at JRLC. That's my initials, Jerome Robert Louis Corsi, JRLC at yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to get the emails in there and respond to people who want either the book signed. You can send them to that post office box, or if you want a book plate, we'll be sending out book plates as well for you to be able to put in the front of the book with my signature. I see we've got about 1,500 people. That's great, and live chat is picking up here, and super chat, thank you, Battle Raven. I'll try to acknowledge people as we go along. I really do appreciate it. Let's start into, thank you. People are really saying they love the book. That's very gratifying to me. Thank you all very much. I want to get into now the a discussion of McCabe firing. And this occurred on Friday when Andrew McCabe was one of the top officials in the FBI, had been fired late in the afternoon, about 9 o'clock p.m., in Washington, D.C. by Jeff Sessions. Now, this was a big drama on Friday. We kept watching. I was watching all day long, wondering, is McCabe going to be fired? The issue was, if McCabe was fired, he was only something like about 25 hours away from retiring, and he would have gotten his full pension. And certainly President Trump was pressing and Jeff Sessions to fire McCabe, because there was outrage being expressed by many in the country, feeling that what McCabe had done was really likely criminal, and he should not be rewarded with a pension for having participated in what it amounts to a coup d'etat attempt against President Trump. At that time, trying to keep Hillary Clinton from being indicted, and then switching to producing this insurance policy on the Russian collusion theme so that impeachment possibilities could be set up with Donald Trump. Now, the first thing I want to make it clear to you, and I'm going to quote from quite a few different articles here. This is one that a legal analysis of what the firing was. And first of all, the whole investigation of McCabe comes from the Inspector General's office. Now, the Inspector General is given an oversight position within the Department of Justice, and Michael Horowitz is the Inspector General. Now, Michael Horowitz was the one who reviewed the evidence about McCabe. Remember, McCabe had been dismissed from the FBI by Christopher Wray after the OIG report on the Strozik and Page, these two FBI employees who were exchanging some 10,000 or so text messages between them. They were lovers, and they were obviously hating Trump and wanting to destroy Trump's campaign or impeach him if he should win. Now, when Horowitz studied this, he gave Wray enough information that Wray dismissed McCabe. McCabe has not been in the job, but he still was hired. He was not yet resigned. He wasn't fired. Now, the Inspector General gave his information to the Office of Professional Responsibility in the FBI, and they made the recommendation. They examined the evidence and made the recommendation basically on the findings of professional responsibility that that McCabe should be fired, should be terminated immediately. And when this was taken into consideration by Jeff Sessions was not making a political decision. He was making a decision based on the findings of the Inspector General and on the recommendations of this Office of Professional Responsibility. Now, their grounds were that McCabe had repeatedly leaked to the press, including during Hillary Clinton's investigation. And remember, the Inspector General was actually appointed by Barack Obama. That was Michael Horowitz was asked to look into the entire FBI and Department of Justice operations, because at that time Obama and Hillary Clinton were very angry that the investigation into Hillary's email had been restarted late in the campaign, if you'll recall, after Weiner's laptop was found to have contained thousands of emails from Huma Abedin, his wife, who was also then one of the top aides to Hillary Clinton in the State Department. So the Inspector General was really not a Trump appointee, and he's the one, Michael Horowitz, who started this entire investigation saying McCabe ought to be fired. Now, this is all very important because you've got to have the context on this so that the mainstream media narrative isn't all you're hearing. The mainstream media, isn't it horrible that, McCabe lost his pension? Is all it should have. What McCain ought to start worrying about is that he should start worrying about criminal prosecution, whether or not he's going to be in jail. Because we've got the Inspector General who's saying that basically McCabe leaked to the press repeatedly and then lied to the Congress about it under oath. It would be disgraceful to give him his full pension. And when he had performed so, it was so questionably in his duties within the FBI at a very high level. Now, I want to make sure also people understand the full background of McCabe. And by the way, thank you all very much. People are saying they love the book. Thank you so much. I think the book has a chance to be a bestseller, and that'll give us more platform, more opportunity to get out there and tell the message of the deep state. And that's what this is all about. This is a deep state message. Why we need to kill the deep state. And by the way, people listening in Great Britain, all around the world, EU, there's deep state in each one of these government organizations, and I'm going to try before we're done today to apply what we're learning in the United States to how it will affect you in countries like the UK and the EU and Australia, around the world. These are very important issues to understand. Now, in going back in Mueller, I want to make clear McCabe. I want to make sure you understand who McCabe really was. McCabe was pretty much a political operative for the Democrats within the FBI. The real controversy over McCabe started when the Wall Street Journal, in October 2016, during the campaign, published a report that McCabe's wife, Jill McCabe, ran for the Virginia State Senate, and she had the support of the Democratic Party in Virginia. Now, Terry McAuliffe, who was then governor and a close friend and confidant of the Clintons, had given to Jill McCabe from the Democratic Party, State Democratic Party's Political Action Committee. First, she received $465,000, and then she was for the Democratic Party. Then she received first $465,000 from the Political Action Committee, and then $207,000 from the State Democratic Party, with McAuliffe directing that. And McAuliffe was a close friend of the Clintons, longtime confidant, longtime buddy in crime of the Clintons. And of course, this was the time when Andrew McCabe, who was deputy director of the FBI, so really a top position under at that time, overseeing the investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server when Comey was head of the FBI. So here you had, during the campaign, Comey, FBI Director James Comey, is in charge. His deputy director McCabe was getting close to $700,000 from the State Democratic Party in Virginia to run for the state Senate in Virginia. Now, if that wasn't a bribe, or if that didn't look like it created conflicts of interest while McCabe is investigating the Clintons, I mean, this is where it starts. It starts when you realize that the political ties here compromised McCabe from the very beginning. And McCabe did not recuse himself from the investigation of Hillary's email server. Now, we've also learned that McCabe was a participant of rewriting, along with Peter Strzok, again, who headed the counterintelligence division, one of the two lovers within the FBI. They were rewriting James Comey's public statement about Hillary's email server. They were rewriting it to say, first of all, that any language that suggested that Hillary may have committed a crime was taken out, and instead they said she was extremely careless. Well, extremely careless under the statute certainly sounds like a criminal violation of handling emails that many of which contain classified information. I remember President Trump just gave a pardon to a sailor who was convicted of mishandling classified information because he took pictures inside a nuclear submarine and sent them to his fiancée or his wife. I mean, and Hillary here has gotten emails going in all over the world using a private email server, and with Ahmadine, her Muslim Brotherhood assistant in the State Department, sending these emails to her Yahoo account or Yahoo email account, and they end up on Weiner's laptop. Weiner being the disgraced, resigned, congressman, Democratic congressman, who had all these lewd sexting pictures with underage girls on his cell phone and his laptop. So McCabe is compromised and was actually found to be rewriting Comey's statement. The other thing, and this is a point that gets often overlooked, is that McCabe and Strozik also knew that Barack Obama had a private email server which was not a government server under a pseudonym. And it turned out that in the investigations, they, largely Judicial Watch, the FOIA requests, Congress with its various requests to get a hold of Hillary Clinton's emails, found that there were on the private email server emails from President Obama using his pseudonym account to Hillary's account when she was overseas. Now, overseas is when this account could be easily compromised, and what it means is that if Hillary was found to be guilty or sufficient evidence to indict her for mishandling classified information, well, then Obama was also guilty. And so what McCabe did, along with Strozik, is they made sure that in Comey's public statement, instead of saying President Obama was also using the private email server, they said a top government official, not naming President Obama. And this statement came all out, towards the end of the campaign. First, Hillary breathed a sigh of relief that she'd been basically exonerated on the email server investigation, and then she immediately panicked because within a few weeks the Weiner laptop had been found and she was back under investigation, and that's when Obama appointed this inspector general to look into the email server problem. Now, the story doesn't end there with McCabe and Strozik and all of the deals with the lying and the leaking. President Trump made it clear, and he had a kind of a tweeting storm over the past few days, basically making it clear that McCabe should have been not only fired, but his pension denied, because his behavior in terms of lying and leaking were likely criminal, most likely criminal offenses. Now, kind of like a final touch on this, McCabe made it clear that he had personal email notes that he made in his conversations with President Trump, and with these private email notes, he gave those notes to Special Counsel Mueller. And they were, he first shared them with James Comey, and included James Comey's feelings and all the feelings McCabe had talking to Trump. And then McCabe sent these notes to Mueller. Now, Trump has tweeted that he doesn't recall McCabe making any notes. So these were notes that, were made after the meeting, notes that would most likely be considered CYA, and getting the position that, that basically McCabe wanted to put himself in the best possible light, and maybe in these notes say something that would implicate President Trump with obstructing justice. And these are kind of like secret squirrel notes. They're, you can't see them, Mr. President, and I'm not leaving them in the department. I'm just going to give them to Mueller, so he has them. And that's the kind of way McCabe operated. Jennifer Small, thank you very much. She's asking also about the Seth Rich murder. We may get to that today, but I really want to focus on what we're talking about here with the current events, with McCabe being fired and what the implications of this are, because it's a complicated story, and you're not getting the full story in the mainstream media. I want to give you as much of the full story as we can here today. Paul D., thank you on the super chat is very much appreciated. And this is for me, this is entirely an effort of determination to tell the truth, to get the truth out. I feel compelled to do this. It's almost like it's come on me almost as a necessity that we get the truth out here, and that's what I'm focusing on doing. Now, there's another dimension to this whole Strozik, Page, and McCabe relationship in the FBI that also came out last week, and it came out from the Inspector General, which makes it clear to me that the Inspector General is really on top of the criminality that went on within the State Department, and is really determined. I mean, in the FBI and the Department of Justice, State Department is another issue that I'm sure has got its own problems. But here the issue is, we found out new material on what Strozik and Page did. Evidently, Strozik and Page had this in their emails. They realized that this district judge, U.S. Court District Judge Rudolph Contreras, was a FISA court judge, and they knew they were going to take this Fusion GPS dossier, which the FBI could not validate. Kevin Kargas, thank you. And they were going to use it as the basis to get the electronic surveillance of Donald Trump's campaign. So, in these email exchanges, Peter Strozik tells his lover, Lisa Page, that he knows this judge, Contreras, that they have met each other and that they've been friendly, and they decide that they're going to try to have a private meeting with him, maybe at a cocktail party. They'll invite Contreras to a cocktail party, and then they'll try to influence Contreras on the need to get this electronic surveillance done, based on in part on the Fusion GPS dossier. And the two of them, conspires to how they can influence a judge. Well, I mean, you can't collude with a judge. You can't try to invite the judge at a cocktail party and then say, by the way, Judge, in this case coming up, please vote with us, even though we don't have the full goods. We're not going to make a point of this dossier. Don't question this too hard. We really need to get this electronic surveillance of Donald Trump's campaign. Well, if that weren't enough, Contreras is also the judge who was assigned to General Flynn's case when General Flynn was being investigated for lying. Now, the lying, General Flynn had his interview with, of all people, Peter Strozik. And the lying evidently occurred in this Peter Strozik interview. Now, Peter Strozik made notes of the interview. They have a report, I think it's called a 302 report on interrogations that the FBI agents file. And McCabe and Strozik went back and they edited and rewrote Strozik's 302 report, which appears to have been a rewrite to implicate Flynn in a lie. Now, we think this because Comey, FBI Director Comey, separately told Congress not to worry because they had everything set such that Flynn had not lied. Comey saying Flynn didn't lie. And yet you've got over here McCabe and Strozik trying to get Flynn on lying. It's the only thing they can get him on. And it's going to come before this same Judge Contreras, who was on the FISA court, that is the buddy-buddy of Strozik. Now, if that isn't kind of an incestuous little tight relationship, that to me means that Flynn may have been set up, might have had more lies going on between Strozik and McCabe to frame Flynn. The Contreras resigned suddenly from Flynn's case. He recused himself after it became known that Strozik and Page were lovers and they were exchanging these meetings. I'm sure Contreras put the pieces together and said, I better get out of this case quick. Now, the new judge that was appointed was Emmett G. Sullivan, another U.S. District Judge. Now, when Sullivan came in, the first thing Sullivan did, and looking over this case file, and this I think is remarkable, he basically made a ruling on December 12th, 2017. Judge Sullivan gave Mueller, special prosecutor, the instructions demanding that Mueller turn over to the defense anything that could be considered exculpatory. Now, this is under the Brady rule, which demands, Supreme Court ruling that demands that prosecution share with the defense all evidence in the case, including evidence that could benefit the defense. But what Wiseman knows is that, I would say what the judge, Emmett Sullivan, knows is that one of the prosecutors working with Mueller is a guy named Wiseman. And I go back to a book, 2014 book, by Sidney Powell, who's a U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney. And Sidney Powell makes it clear that Wiseman is a crooked prosecutor who will do anything to get a conviction, including withholding exculpatory information from the defense. Missy Kalk, thank you. Our love, thank you. Light switch again, thank you. Okay, so this is unusual because usually the defense has to file a motion. Here the judge just looked at the case and said, wait a minute, I think this is a setup. I want to see everything, including the exculpatory evidence. Now, suddenly then on January 31, Mueller requested a delay in sentencing, pushing Flynn's sentencing into May of this year. And then on February 14th, Mueller asked Judge Sullivan to seal the information the special prosecutor's team had handed over to Flynn's defense. They didn't want the public knowing about this. Now, I think Donald Trump should take the next step and pardon General Flynn. And I'm calling on President Trump, who I know is thinking about this, to have the courage to do it. I have tremendous admiration for President Trump. I've known him for a long time. He is courageous, and he's got this strategized and planned out. Now, I'm going to pause here for a minute, and I want to go to QAnon. Because QAnon, last week, before McCabe was fired, someone posted, an anonymous posted in the Q Research Board, Q team, trust Sessions still or not? Why is Fox News saying McCabe will skate? And what Q said is, trust the plan, full control, Q. So Q knew sometime in the middle of last week that, in fact, Sessions was going to take the step to fire McCabe, and McCabe was going to lose his pension, and that this was all unfolding according to the plan, and that it was in full control. And I think, again, you see Donald Trump is orchestrating and is carefully making sure that the counterattack, what I call the counterattack, is beginning in full stride. Because Mueller's investigation has largely stalled out. All Mueller could do is produce an indictment against 13 Russians who posted on social media during the campaign. And Rod Rosenstein, number 2 in the Department of Justice under Sessions, Attorney General, said when this indictment was announced by Mueller that these 13 Russians made no impact on the election at all, and that there was no evidence that Trump or anyone in Trump's campaign had talked to them or colluded with them. Now, if this is all that Mueller has after all of this time of doing the investigation, Mueller is now stalled out, and Congress should start demanding of Rosenstein, who appointed Mueller, and by the way, the two of them go way back and are operatives who have benefited the Democrats. I think Mueller himself should be put under investigation. I'll get to that point in a minute. But what I'm saying is that as we follow this through, Mueller is stalling out at a time when Trump is just ramping up the evidence which makes it clear that the collusion with Russia, the criminality, the violations of the law, were being done by the Democrats, and were being done by these deep state operatives within the Department of Justice and the FBI, including working with Brennan at the CIA, who was the very first to call out this Russian collusion narrative, saying that it was Russia that had hacked the DNC's computers. I also want to point out Eric Schmidt was involved in this with Google, because Eric Schmidt had financed CrowdStrike for, I think, $100 million. And they were the firm that the Democrats brought in who found this metadata, this Cozy Bear and Fuzzy Bear data that said, oh, this was a Russian hack to steal the DNC emails. It turns out that that was possibly CrowdStrike either did not find that or somehow or other produced a conclusion that is not based on the facts, because the group of former NSA officials did their analysis and published it in The Nation, which is hardly a right-wing publication, saying that the time of the intrusion when these emails were stolen was so short it had to be accomplished as an inside job by someone putting in a thumb drive and downloading the emails, which again supports the proposition that it was Seth Rich that did the stealing of the emails, something which has been continuously maintained by Julian Assange, who hasn't directly affirmed it, but he's come right up to affirming it. Now, if you take a look at this picture and kind of stand back for a minute and kind of get a perspective of what's happening, Mueller is stalled out, and he's got just, Adam Schiff over in the House Intelligence Committee, the Republican, just about panicking, going insane, saying you can't fire Mueller. I don't think Trump will fire Mueller, but I think Trump and the various congressional leaders, like Senator Grassley in the Judiciary Committee, Devin Nunes in the House Intelligence Committee, Goodlatte in the Senate, in the House rather, Judiciary, their version of the Judiciary Committee. All of the pressure here is saying that Mueller has got nothing, and that we're spending time, he's way afield of his mission. He's beginning to investigate things that were never contemplated and have nothing to do with Russian collusion. Remember, the indictment of Manafort and Gates, former campaign director of Donald Trump, goes back to issues that were of 2006, and consulting that Manafort did with the Ukraine. None of this has to do with the election. None of this has to do with collusion with Russia or the Democratic Committee being hacked. Now, as this sets up, Trump is getting the evidence set up, and this is the point I'm making, killing the deep state. This is a propaganda attack. Russia collusion. And it can't be defeated by the truth. You can't defeat propaganda with the truth. The people say, well, we haven't looked hard enough. We'll find the evidence. We'll have to keep looking. All right, well, that argument has to be defeated in a different way. And this is what Donald Trump is doing. He is undermining the credibility of the Democrats who are advancing the Russian collusion argument by showing this evidence with McCabe, Strozik, and Page inside the FBI, planning and colluding to prevent Donald Trump from winning the election, to give Hillary Clinton a pass on her email server, to frame General Flynn with a altered 302 interrogation report. I can assure you that what's happening in this shift is that Grassley, Senator Graham, Representatives Nunes, Goodlatte, and others are going to step up the drumbeat saying we need a special prosecutor, because the special prosecutor will have powers of subpoena and the ability to examine witnesses that may have left the FBI or the Department of Justice, whereas an internal prosecutor or the Inspector General may have more limited powers. And it's looking like to clean this corruption up is going to take a very deep examination of how the FBI and the Department of Justice operated during the campaign. Why is this so important? Trey Gowdy, yes, Trey Gowdy I think will play a role, and he may be the special prosecutor. There's several good candidates. Now, the whole nature of where this is going and the shift from Donald Trump into a counterattack is going to be, instead of Mueller's evidence being zipped, nothing, no real indictments that are on point, this new special prosecutor will be able to find extensive criminality and operations within the Department of Justice and the FBI, coordinated with the intelligence agencies, to frame Donald Trump on a made-up charge. By the way, colluding with Russia is not a criminal offense. Michael Mengen, thank you very much. And we did this broadcast yesterday on Ireland and the Clinton Foundation criminality in Ireland, and that's now archived on my YouTube channel at JRLCORSI. Okay, so what you have here is a conspiracy within the deep state, as QAnon has pointed out. 16 years, 8 years with Obama, 8 years with Hillary Clinton, with the goal to go into this new world order, to make the United States of America and our Constitution obsolete, to redefine the First Amendment. I'm calling the Democrats and their identity politics increasingly the hate left. You know, I said the party is moving. In my book, I make the point the Democrats are moving hard left to the point of becoming a fringe party. You know, so far into the Saul Alinsky methodologies that they sound like they're a European-style socialist or communist party. And that will not attract a lot of voters. But what it has is a lot of operatives within the government, the intelligence agencies, the justice system, also the IRS, who are on this agenda and believe that we need open borders. We need to move into a EU type of international trade agreements, that central bankers should rule. You know, that we the people are really sheep and insignificant. Our rights are insignificant. This is so at opposition to the type of limited government our founding fathers had in mind that, truthfully, the republic is at stake. And what's at stake here is whether or not we're going to be able to preserve the United States of America as a constitutional republic. So one of the first points I wanted to really make today is that Donald Trump, and Q's posts make it clear, remains in coordination and in direction of how this counterattack is going to come about. And if you look at the Q posts all the way through last week, he's continuously saying two things. One is trust Sessions, and that the plan is in place, that we need an Internet Bill of Rights. That's been a big theme. But he's also been saying these post Q is the boom and boom, boom, boom for next week. And some of these booms, which are dramatic events, like McCabe being fired and losing his pension, that's a dramatic event. And all of the, the establishment politicians in Washington on both sides, Republican, Democrats, say, "Oh my, how could this happen to this career FBI guy?" Well, this career FBI guy is the Democratic Party deep state operative. And this is the problem throughout the Department of Justice and the FBI. And President Trump has recently said maybe the only solution is to tear down the FBI building and start over again. Now, just to get this point in terms of where President Trump is, I want to pull up some of his tweets here. I want to read a few of these because I think that they're really illustrative of where Donald Trump is. Here we go. Hold on a second. Yeah, my computer's going a little slow right here. Okay, Donald Trump is basically saying, this one here is, I think, particularly good. Donald Trump just 7 hours ago said, "Why does Mueller's team have 13 hardened Democrats, some big crooked Hillary supporters, and 0 Republicans?" Another Democrat recently added, "Does anyone think this is fair? And yet there is no collusion." And then Trump responded also 7 hours ago to this whole McCabe saying he took notes and gave them to Mueller. And Trump tweets, "Spent very little time with Andrew McCabe, but he never took notes when he was with me. I don't believe he has made memos except to help his own agenda, probably at a later date. Same with lying James Comey. Can we call them fake memos?" Well, now Comey's also bragging he's got a book coming out, and I'm sure the book is going to continue his narrative, and we're going to be again seeing Donald Trump painted as ogre trying to obstruct justice. Donald Trump did not obstruct justice. Mueller's investigation continued. Donald Trump didn't restrict Mueller's resources or tell him he couldn't hire all these Democratic attorneys on a hate Trump agenda. The 19 hours ago, he said, the Mueller probe, Donald Trump, Mueller probe should never have been started. That there was no collusion and there was no crime. It was based on fraudulent activities and a fake dossier paid for by crooked Hillary and the DNC that improperly used in the FISA court for surveillance of my campaign. Witch hunt. Now, what Donald Trump, I think, has brilliantly done here is turn the tables around. Instead of his campaign and his administration being under investigation for Russian collusion, the chapter I wrote in Killing the Deep State about Hillary and Podesta getting paid handsomely by Russia needs to be investigated, along with all of these internal machinations within the Department of Justice and the FBI to make sure Hillary never got convicted of anything. I sometimes wonder, Strozik and Page were writing all these memos, 10,000 memos, having a love affair. I don't know how they had any time to do anything but write instant messages to one another. It seems like, the basis of their attraction was this mutual hatred for Donald Trump. And now we've got to have up to Rosenstein. I think the pressure is going to come solidly on Rosenstein. And I think Jeff Sessions has to play an increasing role in that he has to step up and say, how do we continue to justify letting Mueller's investigation go on when nothing has been proved? Now, I wanted to go through all this today so you can understand and the details to see that the mainstream media is lying when they're trying to make a victim out of McCabe. McCabe was an operative who acted outside the law, lied, leaked to the press, had his wife financed to the tune of $700,000 by Terry McAuliffe while he was investigating Hillary Clinton's emails. This is the type of person we do not need in the government. This is the deep state. This is the deep state that is operating outside the law in order to achieve a political agenda. Now, Donald Trump has weathered the storm so far, and it's now time to begin the counterattack, and he will need, I believe, a special prosecutor to do the job correctly. And each one of you, each of us, have got to now start besieging Congress with phone calls saying, appoint a new special prosecutor and fire Mueller. They need to have, your congressmen and senators need to have faxes and letters sent in. When the offices get flooded with these requests, I can tell you those staffs in Washington for the Congress and the Senate are very small. They get overworked, they get overwhelmed. You've got to have your voices heard. It is we the people. And as Q says, where we go one, we go all. It's now time for us to go all in the Congress know that we want a special prosecutor who will clean up this deep state and expose it. Donald Trump's campaign was under electronic surveillance with Barack Obama directing it, and there's good indication to think Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett have never stopped behind the scenes directing the Democratic operatives in the deep state to continue opposing Donald Trump. We need to have a special prosecutor to get to the bottom of the Seth Rich case. Why is Seth Rich's laptop still in possession of the Washington Police Department? Why is Representative Weiner's laptop in the possession of the FBI? The contents of these two laptops need to be made public for the investigation of Seth Rich's murder, to determine if he was or was not in contact directly with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, and for direct examination of Weiner's laptop to see how many emails Huma Abedin transferred to her private Yahoo account going through Weiner's laptop. I mean, these are the critical issues that we need to have investigated right now. And if you get to Congress and say, we demand a special prosecutor, we demand these laptops be released, this is the whole point of using this opportunity to kill the deep state. That's the real objective here. And Donald Trump, I think, is we're blessed by God, I believe, to have the opportunity to have someone of Donald Trump's courage, his genius, his ability to manage the media in there to push the agenda. The deep state is out to destroy the Constitution. Now, extending this to the international viewers, UK, EU, you've seen the deep state in Brussels, these nameless bureaucrats who come in first, get lots of money from the EU, then you get lots of regulations, you get the imposition of a set of rules that have nothing to do with what the truth is of what needs to be done in Great Britain. It has to do with what the bureaucrats with their New World Order mentality, multinational corporation puppets want to impose on you. I mean, take a look at the freedoms that have been lost in all the countries under the EU. Countries invaded by a Muslim invasion without any opportunity to vet who's being brought into the country, with a whole series of You're not able even to talk about the sexual crimes that have resulted. All these subjects shut down in the political correctness of this hate left. The hate left and the New World Order have formed a pact in which they are determined to destroy freedom. Great Britain voted to get out of the EU, and it's yet been stalled by these same unelected bureaucrats. These are the, reaching across to our friends who want freedom in the EU, in the UK, in Australia, and around the world. This is the opportunity for the Great Awakening. It's the opportunity where you, as anonymous citizens, can assert your rights, can say, we've had enough of this. We don't want the multinational corporations. We don't want nameless bureaucrats setting our fate. We don't want to live in fear that we may say something that will put us in prison. We want to have a robust opportunity to express our feelings, to express our beliefs in God as we see them, and not to be put in prison because we dared to read our Bible outside a closet. This was understood by our founding fathers, and it's understood worldwide. As Sin Boom says, thank you for taking the time to decode and fully understand the political background, the players then and now. This has been an evolution. This is much worse than Watergate. It's Watergate on steroids. It's what happens when the global elite thought they were within one election, within Hillary Clinton's election, of winning, destroying the freedoms that we've lived by. This hard hate left has got to be turned back. And if it's going to be turned back, it requires each of us, each of you, us together, to have the courage to make each of our countries first. America first, UK first, France first, Italy first, around the world, Australia first. If you have the ability to establish freedom in your own country and bring back economic prosperity, we can roll back this disastrous attempt to control the world with a new world order. Now, in conclusion, I just want to say one or two more things, and that is, if we take a look at the QAnon posts, QAnon has emphasized the need for an Internet Bill of Rights, the IBOR, and he said repeatedly, get behind this, develop memes, get it on the internet, make sure the Congress understands the need to extend to the internet the freedoms that we enjoy under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. This is fundamental. This is important. The internet has been essentially an essential tool in enlightening the world to the slavery of the New World Order. If we can sit in our living rooms, sit in our studies, and communicate across the globe, this lying New World Order will not have the chance to survive. What it can't stand is light. It can't stand the light of day. It can't stand truth. And so if we understand this, for instance, one of Q's posts, he was asked, and this was on March 10th, just because I'm a parent, Q, are all operators safe and healthy, praying every day? Q says, we appreciate all of the prayers. We really do. Thank you for God and country and world. What I'm expressing today and all these ideas, we're taking our lead from Q. And I affirm that QAnon is a legitimate source very close to President Trump, and that what we're seeing unfold is a plan that Q and President Trump have developed, in which they are confident of success. And there's going to be many more revelations to come. We're only at the very beginning of this, and some of what's going to come will be shocking. But again, I implore everyone listening to be involved. You can make a difference just communicating with your congressmen and senators that we need a special prosecutor. We need Mueller dismissed. We need General Flynn pardoned. These are things that are going to be critical to a counterattack that's going to probably take more than a year. And be prepared for Donald Trump doing this methodically and doing it the right way, so he really does clean this out once and for all and gets to the bottom of this corruption of these holdovers in Justice Department and the FBI and the intelligence agencies who think they're smarter than us and their agenda, which they self-appointed themselves to have, just like the nameless bureaucrats in Brussels. This is what needs to be turned back. With your help, with the help of God, I'm confident we're going to succeed. And I'm going to end on Q's point, where we go one, we go all. Thank you for listening today. God bless you. God bless the United States of America, and God bless all the countries of those continuing to fight for freedom. This is Jerome Corsi signing off. Thank you.